Welcome to the Cascade PBS Ideas Festival podcast. I'm Paris Jackson, host of the news feed on Cascade PBS. To set the stage for this episode, imagine yourself listening to a conversation among three friends, two of which have been best friends for more than 2 decades, New York Times bestselling author Lindy West and her bestie, Meagan Mays, a so-called recovering lawyer and democracy expert. They host the podcast Text Me Back. The other friend in the room is Los Angeles-based comedian and actor Guy Branum. The trio converged in early May for this wildly entertaining conversation, or roast if you will, of the Supreme Court at the Cascade PBS Ideas Festival. Between laughter and West prodding Branum for celebrity stories, the panel pivots to a game ranking current justices from best to worst based on what kind of real housewife they'd be. While it's mostly fun, the trio highlights the darker side of an uncontrolled court. Let's get into it.
Surprise!
Hello! Hello! Oh my goodness!
Hi. Hello, angels.
Oh, thank you so much for coming. Hello. Welcome to the Cascade PBS Ideas Festival. My name is Lindy West. I am the host of Text Me Back, which is a podcast about best friends and animals and ghosts and things that happened to us in 2003 and buying things to make yourself feel better.
And I'm Meagan Mays, also the host of Text Me Back. We have a very exciting show for you today, where we'll be joined by actor, comedian, and all-around king, Guy Branum. So normally, Lindy and I would spend a bunch of time catching up on the different snake videos she's seen on Instagram, but our guest is simply too good to keep him backstage for long. So Lindy, could you do the honors of introducing our guest?
Yes, Guy Branum is a famous comedian, an actor and movie star, and he's on an Apple TV show that I have never heard of before in my life, but that's my fault, not his, and he'll tell you what it is. And you can see him, if you are in Los Angeles next week, you can see him perform at the Netflix is a Joke Comedy Festival, and he's perhaps best well known as the most ungrateful guest at my wedding, who incorporated it into his act for 3 years, making fun of my wedding. And that's a testament to how delightful he is. We're still friends, and I'm so pleased to welcome to the stage Mr. Guy Branum. Woo! Hi, Guy.
Hi,
Welcome to our show. Yes, hello.
Business deal struck. Thank you.
It was a good wedding, they just didn't have cake. And I went to like 4 weddings that summer and I didn't get white cake. And if I come to your wedding, I expect white cake.
I mean, we ask for such precious little. So yeah, like I said, normally we'd spend a bunch of time catching up, but we could do a quick Guy tidings, a guidings.
Yeah. We do a segment on our show called Tidings, which is basically, how are you? But we call it tidings because that's called broadcasting. You make up a name for normal conversations with friends. So we're gonna do a quick tidings and just catch up and say hi. Do you want me to start?
Yeah.
I have a tiding.
What's your tiding?
My tiding is that I moved to the woods, and so now I am a hiker. And I went on a hike, day before yesterday. It's not really a hike because it was fully flat and paved, but it was. Okay, you laugh, but it was 12 miles long.
Spicy.
Thank you. It's actually an incredible, you should all go do it. It's at Lake Crescent, which is on the Olympic Peninsula, and you could just walk along the edge of the lake for 12 miles. Well, for 6 miles and then back. Anyway, and I did it, and I was very proud of myself. And then I got home, and then I realized that on my toe, I had grown a blister that was the size of another toe.
Amazing.
And I guess my tiding is that I have such restraint that I did not post a picture of my toe on Instagram for people to see. Thank you.
Congrats.
I'm growing as a person.
Congrats.
And I'm maturing. How about any tidings with y'all?
Guy?
My tiding is just that I live in Los Angeles, and this winter, thanks to global warming, there's been an inordinate amount of rain in Los Angeles. So I wanted to inform all of you that Los Angeles is now part of the Pacific Northwest and will be participating in your cultural traditions and always wearing a light coat, except that unlike you guys 9 months from now, it means that Los Angeles will be engulfed in wildfires.
Amazing. I love to laugh. Okay, thanks. Great tidings, guys. I didn't think of one, so.
Nothing's happened to you?
No, nothing. Not a thing.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So one of the things that I like best about Guy, which is, it's hard to think of a list. There's so many. But one of my favorite things about Guy is that Guy is a Hollywood insider. Guy is on television. Guy writes television. Oh, tell them the show that you're on.
The show that I'm on is called Platonic with Seth Rogen and Rose Byrne. But don't worry if you've never heard about it. Apple Plus likes to hide their television shows. They don't want you to know. Octavia Spencer has been on a show for like 4 seasons, and no one here has heard of it because that's not what Apple Plus is about. But Platonic is very funny, and you should watch it, and I'm on it.
Amazing.
I wish I had a better memory. Yes, watch it and applaud. I wish I had a better memory because when we pitched my TV show Shrill at Apple Plus, the things that the execs said to us were so spooky. Like, I don't remember. It was things like, this is not a real example, but it was in the spirit of this. It was like someone asked if they could get ice in their water, and then the response was like, Jeff really didn't believe in ice in water, so we don't do that. Like, it was like very culty. I'm sorry, not Jeff. Excuse me, Steve. I'm sort of hypnoptized by this very large Jeff's magic smile. It was like Steve didn't believe in ice, so we don't do that here. It was like Steve didn't believe in rolly chairs, so we don't have that in our boardroom. Anyway, it was because Steve had been gone for many years at this point, but they were still. There was something very spooky about it.
Stunning tribute to Steve.
Sorry, Jeff.
Yeah.
I would never mix them up. It's blasphemous. But so guys,
Oligarchs are different. Oligarchs are not all the same.
So Guy's a Hollywood insider. So but here's what you need to get in your life: a Hollywood insider who's also your friend.
Yeah.
Because if you just meet a Hollywood insider on the street, they won't tell you the true Hollywood secrets. But if you can invite someone to your wedding and then stay in their good graces, even if you don't give them cake, because you had a whole dessert buffet of different little treats.
Oh my God,
by the way.
It was a beautiful dessert. Those Rice Krispie treats were really good.
Yes. Seattle Company, brown butter Rice Krispie treats from Street Treats or Eats. I can't remember, but they're really good. You can get them at Cafe Vita. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So I like to grill Guy about, like who's nice, who's the nicest, who's the meanest, what's happening behind the scenes in the, what do they call it? Does it have a name?
What?
Hollywood. Does it have a nickname like the Big Apple?
La La Land.
La La Land. What's happening? Hey, Hollywood land man. What's happening in La La Land? That's what I'd like to ask Guy.
Yep, that's what we're going to be calling this segment.
A blockbuster story recently, and I'm going to force you to tell it right now.
Okay. So I am a creepily gigantic man. And that means I do not get booked for a lot of acting work. I write for things, I do stand up, but I don't get to be an actor a lot of the time. And for a long time, I thought that was because I was not good at acting. And then I realized it is mostly just because everyone is like, how do you have a person that large in your movie without getting in the way of the other actors? The point is, finally, at long last, there was a film coming out and they needed a fat gay guy around the age of 50. And I was like, boom.
Like, surely I don't even need to audition.
Right.
Hello.
And so, I mean, look, there's the fat gay guy from Mean Girls, right? There's a small contingent of we know who is in the race for this. And so I auditioned for it, and it went well. And then they called me back in, and they brought me in front of the director and the writer and the producers. And I auditioned for them. And, it went great. And so they sent me to the studio. I won't say what studio was doing it, but I will say it is owned by one of the men that was mentioned just moments ago. And the studio was like, we don't know if he's famous enough. We don't know if he's famous enough. And so they were like, can we try with some people who are more well known. And so what they ended up doing, so I was essentially cast. I'd gone to studio. That meant that I was cast. The studio just had to say yes. And then they went and they looked at some new people, and then they ended up casting Matt Bomer, who as the fat gay guy. If you don't know who Matt Bomer is, imagine a Ken doll with more abs.
You guys, he was literally in Magic Mike.
He was in Magic Mike.
He played a dancer in Magic Mike.
He is like the hottest human being imaginable, and it is just like, it's so frustrating because people like me don't get to prove themselves because there aren't that many roles for us. And then when there is a role for someone like us, they're like, oh, just take someone who's already famous and put them in some puffy clothing. I mean, the worst part was realizing if he wears a fat suit, I have to write an essay.
Yeah.
If he wears a fat suit, I have to go on 4 podcasts and write an essay and complain about it. But this counts as one of the podcasts.
I was gonna say, it's like he took your job, but he's making you do more work.
Yes.
You all have my permission to get out your phones and look up a picture of Matt Bomer if you would like. If we'd been more prepared, we would have put it up on the screen.
Also, just imagine hot gay guys. You know what they look like.
Thank you.
Okay. You've worked with a lot of different people. We were looking at your IMDb page to come up with some inspo for this next round.
Yes.
Which we're just going to throw names of people that you have been on set with, and you tell us what you think about them in one word.
Absolutely.
And we picked, no offense.
Yes.
We picked liberally. And I suspect that in some of these productions, you were never on set at the same time with this person.
That's
but
fair.
still, we want your take.
Just pretend like you were and give us your take.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the spirit of that, let's start with Kevin Kline.
Kevin Kline I was never on set with, but he seems very capable and lovely. But in that same movie, I was in it with Carrie Elwes, and I was always like, Carrie Elwes from The Princess Bride, and I was always like, we were never in scenes together. He barely knows who I am. I met him at lunch once, and every time I would be like, oh, I'm sorry, you may not remember me. It's like, Guy, how are you doing? And it's like, Carrie Elwes, you're like just as charming and romantic as people want you to be. But then also he got almost entirely cut out of the movie.
Oh. Did you?
No, I'm in the movie a bunch and really charming.
You burnt Carrie Elwes?
Yes.
Do you want to tell people what movie it is?
Oh, it's No Strings Attached. There was a year when we made the same movie, one time with Natalie Portman and Ashton Kutcher, and one time with Mila Kunis and Justin Timberlake. And I was in the Natalie Portman one.
Yeah. Okay, that was more than one word, but thank you.
I had, by the way, I fully had Justin Timberlake written down on this list, and then realized that I had the wrong.
Yes, the wrong movie.
And you were in the other one.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, you go.
Great Seattle Company, Jean Smart.
Oh, Jean Smart is a class act. Look, class act is one word. She's like so lovely. I had like a one-line part on the first season of Hacks, and she would come over, and it was like right at the beginning of COVID, and she kept like lovingly touching my mask and asking me questions about it. But can I tell a brief Jean Smart story?
Yes, God.
Okay, so during this actors strike, I went and was picketing at the Paramount lot, and Jean and a bunch of the actors from Hacks came, and Jean came like all dressed in white linen and then just moseyed with a sign. And like everyone wanted to walk faster than her, but no one wanted to disrespect Jean Smart. So it was like Jean Smart gently talking to a man next to her, and then like 30 people bunched up behind her. And no one was gonna fucking walk in front of Jean Smart.
No, definitely not.
She is a 2-time Best Comedy Actress Emmy winner.
Okay. Let's see. We don't need to do all the ones. I just put everyone.
I'll be one wordy.
You don't have to. Whatever.
All right.
What about? Let's do. Okay. I don't remember which thing this was. It might have been No Strings Attached again. But you shared a bill at one point with Ludacris Bridges.
Oh.
The legendary. Musical genius.
Entrepreneur. That's what I will say about him as an artist.
Triple threat.
Entrepreneur.
Ludacris.
Yes.
Okay, Seth Rogen.
Oh, Seth Rogen is super nice and funny. Like, he's very chill and wonderful and a good time.
I hate the one word. I want to know more about Ludacris.
Oh, my story, Ludacris had a cognac line, and people asked him, why do you have a cognac line? I think it's cognac. And he was just like, everybody's got a vodka. And I respected that.
That's so true. Okay, how about Rhea Perlman? Does everyone know who that is? Cheers. Yeah.
I never experienced her directly or personally, but she was just a legend. And so everybody was just, it's really wonderful and special when you get to be around legends.
Yeah.
You could feel it in the air.
Yes.
Chelsea Handler.
Oh, I think is going to be my answer. Like, I love Chelsea like a sister, and we don't always approve of everything that a sister does.
That is true.
But they're part of your life.
That's the joy of family.
Oh,
Yes.
How about Zac Efron?
Oh, can I tell?
You can just
Do
tell
the
the
whole
story.
story.
Okay.
This is
So
important.
it was the premiere of that movie I was in like 10 years ago with Natalie Portman, and Ashton Kutcher at the time was the stepfather of Rumor Willis. And so Rumor Willis tried me on as a pet gay for the evening. And she had this boy that she liked, and we went out and we hung out with the boy. And then we were going back to her place in a car, and the boy started freestyle rapping. And he said, I can freestyle rap about anything. Give me a topic. And she said Scooby-Doo. And then he rapped for 5 minutes and never in any way mentioned Scooby-Doo. And at that point, and at no point before, did I realize this might be Zac Efron. So I, very drunk, very late into the night, am like, I have to indirectly ask questions to determine if this is Zac Efron. So I opened up with, where do you live? And he was vague and wouldn't answer. And I was like, all right, that's probably Zac Efron. And then I said, are you half Jewish? To which he replied, well, it's my dad's dad, so I'm like a third Jewish. And I said, this is a child who learned fractions on a soundstage. That is Zac Efron.
The only high school he went to was a musical. I think maybe one more?
One more you pick, and then let's move on
God.
to the main event, which is roasting the Supreme Court.
Guy from
Over a real fire.
Okay, sorry. Okay, the guy from Workaholics, we think? The scumbag one?
Oh, no, I've never worked with the scumbag. I mean, I've only worked with Anders Holm, but I love Anders Holm.
Thoughts?
Anders Holm is a delight. He's very handsome and charming, but also really good at comedy. And it's always really annoying when you meet somebody who is handsome and good at comedy. I don't want to have to deal with that.
This is not on the agenda, but I would like to discuss this very briefly. I just watched a video of Ryan Gosling yesterday. It was posted on the Wall Street Journal, which I hear we're in a little bit of a blood feud with the Wall Street Journal because their panel's at the same time as ours.
Yes.
And they were like, ooh, I guess we're beefing. And I was like, literally? Yeah. You think you can just have a panel at the same time as my panel and we're not in a beef? Anyways, and Ryan Gosling was so charming and so funny, and he's also so hot. And I was like, is it stolen valor for a hot person to also be funny? I feel like Congress should pass a law. It's like you get to be either hot or funny. You can't be both.
I mean, like, I always feel like when it's a woman or a person of color or somebody from a marginalized community, I understand how you could be hot and develop comedy chops. And I'm going to say that having been on the Mickey Mouse Club is a marginalized community. Those people went through a lot. They had to, watch their friends be turned into mush by society.
Yes.
They are survivors.
Yeah, it was a period of great suffering.
Yeah.
And that is what they turned into comedy.
By the way, in our blood feud with the Wall Street Journal, you're all conscripted into our army, and we will be fighting their audience after the show is over. So
we'll meet you across the street at the Spheres.
Yep.
Bring your sticks, your bats,
pitchforks,
anything you can find that you think could take down a Wall Street Journal reader.
Wait, let's end on
Which,
one big,
not much. You know what I'm saying?
I want to end on a big movie star just for fun.
Okay.
Can you, because also I'm genuinely curious about this person.
All right.
What can you tell me about Natalie Portman?
Oh, Natalie Portman was way more fun than I expected she would be. She seems like a very controlled person. She's been famous since she was a child, and I didn't expect her to be open, honest, and fun, and she really was open, honest, and fun, and I appreciated that, and she was very smart. That movie, I played roommates with Natalie Portman, Greta Gerwig, and Mindy Kaling.
Greta Gerwig?
The horrible truth of I will always be the least accomplished of these people is like truly vexing, that I, like a cis white man, I'm just never going to get done what those three women are.
I know. It's amazing.
Okay, that's actually like so unfair. I feel like you should have some sort of a sisterhood where the tide raises all of you at once and they should be bringing you.
But the thing is I think that sense of, oh, I will never be the most is really, really great when it is like
That's nice.
rising and achievement. Like, you know, Mindy has an empire. I've worked for her before and she's so great. Greta Gerwig is doing so much and like the film industry is refusing, like is essentially Streisanding her again. Essentially saying like, if you make movies about girl things, you don't get to be best director.
Yeah. I love that. I love that she didn't get nominated for Best Director. Margot Robbie didn't get nominated for Best Actress, but the movie got nominated for Best Movie. It's like, we love the movie. Didn't really care for the director or any of the people in it, though.
Yeah.
Okay, it's time for the main event, SCOTUS roast.
SCOTUS roast.
So, for a little bit of context, Meagan and Guy are both lawyers, kind of.
Technically.
They both went to law school.
It's true.
Do you graduate from law school? What do you call it?
Yes.
Well, I feel like there's always like a fancier word, I magisterium or something. You know what I
We
mean?
magisterium.
We did. We magisterium law school.
They both have their
Doctor. Yes.
They're doctor jurists and medical doctors. It counts actually.
Yep.
So if anyone's
If
having
anyone needs an appendectomy
Yes.
after
a
this,
rash,
qualified.
no, but so they're two most kind of a lawyer people I've ever met, and they're both very smart and they both know a lot about the Supreme Court. And so we thought in this turbulent time, let's take the Supreme Court to task once and for all by pretending that the Supreme Court justices are on a Real Housewives style reality show and making up Real Housewife taglines for them.
Yes.
But before we do that, I want to know
Yes.
your opinion on funniest Supreme Court justice in history.
Oh, that's a really good question. I mean, at the end of the day, Scalia was pretty sassy.
Yeah.
Like, Scalia was really funny and really incisive, but I would say Ginsburg was drier.
Yeah.
Ginsburg made, actually, no. Here's the best joke. Here's what I think the best joke is. So, Lawrence v. Texas was a 2003 case that said that sodomy laws were illegal. And Sandra Day O'Connor wrote a concurrence. And in the concurrence, she noted the fact that if you were convicted of the crime of having gay sex, it could remove you from certain state-authorized professions, including interior decorator or physical trainer. And I was like, oh, she's reading the gays. Like, she's straight up reading the gays in her concurrence.
This is a targeted attack. It used to be more nuanced, I feel like, their attacks, and now it's just like, bleh.
Yeah.
It's a little bit too literal now. I don't really care for it, but yeah.
Is there a legendary Scalia joke?
Didn't he say he had like a good riff on broccoli? He was like, well, if we have the Affordable Care Act mandate, it's the same as making people eat broccoli, and he had some weird sort of broccoli pun. Sorry, I should have looked it up before.
Yes.
I just sprung that question on you like you have an encyclopedic knowledge of every Supreme Court opinion, which I thought that
I used to before I started becoming a full-time, part-time podcast host, but that's over now.
Okay, so this is our game. This brings us to our game. First of all, two-part game. First of all, can you please rank the current Supreme Court justices from best to worst based on how good of a Real Housewife they would be? And then we're going to talk taglines.
Okay, I mean, I think that Thomas is just a messy bitch.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he was in control of himself.
Yeah.
But I think he would make good stories. I think Sotomayor comes in second because she will serve the attitude and always be rolling her eyes at people. And then I will say number 3, Amy Coney Barrett, because she's mean.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's totally right.
Keep listening. The Cascade PBS Ideas Festival podcast continues after this.
BECU. You've heard the name, seen the letters. But what does BECU stand for? Simply put, not-for-profit BECU stands for people. For charting your own path. For choosing what's right for members instead of what's profitable for someone else. Because they are the reason our credit union exists. So we do everything in our power to help them reach their financial goals. BECU. Power in people. All Pacific Northwest residents are eligible to join. Federally insured by NCUA.
They always say life's not about the destination, it's about the journey. So why not travel comfortably? Alaska Airlines has the most legroom in premium class, with 4 inches more than standard main cabin seats and more than any other U.S. legacy airline. Plus, when you book a premium class seat, you can also enjoy early boarding and complimentary beer, wine, and cocktails on board most flights. It's time to enjoy the journey. Upgrade to premium class today on alaskaair.com.
At Amazon, there's a way up for anyone because there's something for everyone. Like Jessica, who completed free technical training programs and is getting her bachelor's with Amazon's prepaid tuition.
Even if you have no knowledge or no experience in IT, Amazon has the tools and the resources to teach you. I've been promoted 3 times, and it's been a significant boost in pay for me.
Free technical training programs at Amazon move full-time and part-time employees into higher-paying jobs. Visit aboutamazon.com for more info.
Should we do taglines?
Let's do taglines.
Let's do taglines.
Okay.
Before we do this, I just want to say the idea was Guy would write funny taglines and I would write funny taglines and Lindy would probably write some too, but I couldn't think of anything funny. So instead, all of my taglines are actual taglines from the Real Housewives franchise that I thought would work for the Supreme Court justices.
By the way, if you don't watch Real Housewives, and honestly, I don't, but I still know about this cultural phenomenon because it's so important. At the beginning, in the opening credits of every Real Housewives franchise, every housewife has a little tagline that she says, and it's always sort of a classic idiom that's been twisted to be sexual or be about capitalism or something. So it's always like, who let the cat out of the bag? Honey, only if it was a Chanel handbag. Like, I just made that up, but you know what I mean?
Crystal Kung Minkoff's is, they say wisdom comes with age, but I'm proving them wrong, which always seemed like she was reading herself.
Like another classic is, I think this is Jill Zarin, I'm an acquired taste. Don't like me? Acquire some taste.
Oh, I love Jill.
See, I don't know who that is, but I'm following.
Yeah.
So join me if you don't know what that is. So anyway, we decided to assign taglines to the justices.
All right.
So we're going to start with Chief Justice John Roberts, please, the Dark Lord himself.
Okay. Here's the line I think you should have. They say centrism isn't sexy, and I'm proving it.
Okay, so this is a perfect Real Housewives tagline because it's ambiguous. Are you saying that he's not a centrist or he's not sexy? It could be either.
I mean, it's both.
No, it's both.
Also, he is the only conservative justice who is cosplaying centrism.
Right. Mine was, and again, all of mine are actual Real Housewives taglines. These are all from Real Housewives of New York, by the way, if you want to catch up later. Mine was, I'm living the American dream, one mistake at a time.
Oh, who is that?
I think it was Luann.
Oh.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. She's a Chief Justice.
Yeah. She is the Chief Justice of New York.
Yes.
Meagan, I feel like, do you want to quickly take 10 seconds to explain why John Roberts is actually bad? Because I feel like he does.
Yes,
he does win people over with his little act.
He does. So the thing is this. I know there's this really strong desire, I think, among a lot of liberals to believe that the court really isn't as bad as it seems. And I really need you to understand it is. It's actually worse than you think. So there was a couple of really high-profile failures on the part of the right to confirm justices to the Supreme Court who would do the bidding of Republicans, who would act as partisans. And one of those people was John Paul Stevens. He was nominated by Nixon, I think. He ended up not being a conservative.
No, I think the solo Ford nominee. Nominee.
So he ended up being more liberal than they wanted. He ended up like actually kind of siding with the liberals, and they were like, oh, damn it, that's really not what we wanted. And then it happened again with David Souter. They're like, okay, well, we'll right the ship, literally right. Go take the ship to the right with David Souter, and he's going to get rid of abortion, and he's going to get rid of voting rights, and this will be sensational. David Souter also tricked him, got him. And David Souter ended up lining up with the liberals too. And so then they really hunkered down. If you want a
conservative justice, don't go with the guy from New Hampshire
don't ever.
who lives alone and reads a lot.
Who literally, like, his foundation was starting to fail because he had too many books in his cottage, okay? So they were like, oh my God, this is so annoying. All we want to do is steal the rights away from people of color and women, and we keep getting thwarted by our justice picks. So they really hunkered down, and what they basically started doing was just like, I hate to use the word grooming, but they've been grooming these students from like political science majors, an undergrad, to law school, to their first clerkship, to their first job at the U.S. Attorney's Office, and they are picking these people to be judges and ultimately Supreme Court justices because they know for a fact that, like, this is the Federalist Society now, they know for a fact that these justices are going to do the bidding of the Federalist Society. And when I say Federalist Society, that really is an organization that is deeply funded by corporations, the extremely wealthy. Like when you hear these stories about Clarence Thomas going on these yacht trips and going on private jets to Bali, those are the same people paying for those gifts and trips and luxuries are the people who fund the Federalist Society, who pay millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars to get their preferred Supreme Court picks confirmed to the Supreme Court. So I know there's this dream that maybe one day, John Roberts is normal, right? He'll wake up one day and do the right thing. No. Because before he was a Supreme Court justice, he had dedicated his career as like a Reagan DOJ nominee to gutting the Voting Rights Act, and he was never able to do it as a lawyer, but he has in fact done it as a Supreme Court justice. He's not a good person. I get his face is symmetrical, and he's like not as comically evil as Brett Kavanaugh, but these are not good people. They are not gonna wake up and be like, damn, women should have stuff. Like, whoopsie, that's not happening. So take that out of your mind. They are not good people, and they need to be replaced with people who do care about our democracy, who want to not gut the Voting Rights Act, but expand access to voting to everyone, because you really can draw a straight line from like John Roberts gutting the Voting Rights Act to people not being able to hand out water in line for people who are trying to vote in Georgia. So just none of that was funny, I'm sorry, but that's why he sucks.
Lest you thought you came to the one panel at the Ideas Festival without any real ideas.
Eat that, Wall Street Journal! See you at the balls, baby!
Okay, the only way to reform the court is to continue to wear down their resolve with sassy taglines.
Yes.
Up next, what do you have for the Silver Fox, Neil Gorsuch?
First I stole a Supreme Court seat. Next, I'll steal your heart.
Okay, and I don't even want to read mine. That was so good. Mine was, I never feel guilty about being privileged.
Who was that?
I don't remember. I should have written down the actual names.
I do remember that one, yeah.
Yeah, that might have been Luann.
Yeah.
Okay, up next, we have our girl Sonia Sotomayor.
Don't be fooled by the tired sighs that I got. I'm still Sonia from the block. Just because these days in oral arguments, because she is the senior most of the liberal justices, usually before her first question, you just get a long sigh. Because Sonia's tired, I think.
Fully head in hand. Yeah. Like, God, why did I take this job?
It's like if my mom was on the Supreme Court.
I picked a nice one for her. Here, I just want to say there is somebody named Sonia on Real Housewives of New York. And so my tagline for Sonia is, sometimes Sonia has to go commando.
You'd never know under the rug.
You would never know. It's a perfect setup.
Okay, how about Alito, the worst? Is he the worst?
Yes.
Alito is the worst.
Yeah.
Women controlling their own bodies. Not on my watch. Honestly, what I really wanted that to be was Indian child welfare. Not on my watch. Yeah. Because for some reason, in addition to all of the ways that he is very evil, he personally has a beef with the Indian Child Welfare Act and has been tearing it apart. And it's not a part of the law that we think about, but it impacts a very small, very marginalized community a huge amount. And we need to stop him.
That is Alito's key demo for right snatching. He loves it. For him, just for some background, again, Thomas isn't the only one accepting lavish trips and gifts. Alito also took a private jet to Alaska where he caught an enormous salmon and drank an $8,000 bottle of wine. So for him, I have chosen, I have a taste for luxury, and luxury has a taste for me.
Okay, this is making me depressed. It doesn't feel as good to roast them as I thought. It's too figurative. Joke, that's a joke. I don't want to literally roast them. It's a joke. Secret Service. Who protects the Supreme Court?
The Marshals.
The U.S. Marshals, starring Tommy Lee Jones. Okay.
Yes.
How about...
It's actually just Tommy Lee Jones who does it. Yeah.
If Tommy was going to come get me, then I will... Threat alert high! How about Kavanaugh?
Ugh.
So the portion of a legal decision that is not governing law is called dicta. So my line is, you'll accept my dicta whether you like it or not.
I'm so excited to see if that gets cut out of the broadcast.
I'm sorry, I should have trigger warnings.
Mine is, if people can't handle the truth, that's really not my problem.
Okay, how about pint-sized Spitfire Elena Kagan?
4'11".
Pocket pal?
Oh, just because I'm a former Solicitor General doesn't mean I won't roast you specifically.
Mine is, I think this is really relevant. Mine is, if you're going to talk about me behind my back, at least check out my great ass.
Oh, that's Carol? I would say Elena Kagan is solidly the Carol Radziwill of the Supreme Court. Sensible, essentially not willing to get into the fray enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
You guys, we're getting so close to the end. I'm sad. Okay, how about Amy Coney Barrett?
I believe in the plain meaning of the law. That's why I'm plain and mean.
You're so I can't believe you didn't even write any of them down.
I know.
I was like, is this what it's like when your brain works normal?
No, I briefly forgot my Elena Kagan, and I was scared.
Oh my God, you should be a professional comedy writer.
Yeah, you should. You should get an Apple TV show. Mine was, I may not be the sharpest tool in the shed, but I'm pretty.
Whose real one is that? Doesn't matter.
Whose real one is that?
I forget.
She was like a very weird-looking blonde woman.
Is that Aviva?
Kristen.
Oh,
no, it was Kristen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was Kristen.
Okay, I have a follow-up question to that.
Kristen.
Because backstage, Meagan checked in with me and she was like, is this misogynist to use this for Amy Coney Barrett? I may not be the sharpest tool in the shed, but I'm pretty, or whatever. And I was like, who cares? But it inspired a real question in my brain that I feel like I've asked you this 100 times. But it's like, she has to be smart on some level, right? Like, or is it, can you just, if you have, for instance, the Federalist, if you have, for instance, the Federalist Society shepherding you gently, can you just sort of cruise through law school as I shouldn't swear, as a bad person with a bad brain?
Well, I don't know about law school. I mean, the thing about law school is it's impossible to fail.
Yeah.
I mean, the grades are curved, and so you really have to be trying to fail law school. Because I did try. I tried. I got really close. No, just kidding. But it's really easy to sail through a confirmation. Yes, she was in a situation where she didn't need any Democratic votes, and so she showed up with no notes, and like that was sort of paraded in front of everyone. Like, look what a brilliant mind she is. She doesn't even need notes. And I was like, no, she doesn't need notes because you're not going to ask her any important questions. Like the questions were like, what's it like carpooling your kids to basketball practice? Shit like who needs notes for that? Like,
what SPF do you use?
Yeah. Drop the skincare routine.
In the law, the people who are smart and innovative are hard to control. You cannot, however much you may think of them as left or right, they're always going. Even Scalia came down saying flag burning is protected by the First Amendment because he had a philosophy. And these people don't so much have philosophies as marching orders.
Exactly.
You know?
Yep.
I know that smart is subjective and kind of doesn't mean anything. I get so hung up on this idea of like someone is at the top of their field and they're doing things that are evil. And I guess I just like my brain short circuits because I don't understand how you can get there and not have any perspective that causes you to pause.
Well, and it's not like the Dobbs decision has some sort of language in it that makes you say like, oh,
what a brilliant mind.
They've reconstrued this in some sort of way. It was just like, we have the votes to do this, we're going to do this.
And they're insulated from any sort of consequence, right?
Yeah.
We don't elect Supreme Court justices, so they're like, well, like I was kind of joking about this before, they used to be a little bit more subtle in the way that they would take away rights, and they would move a lot more slowly. They would start to slowly erode people's rights, and this was true about abortion over time. Like it's not just like Dobbs didn't come out of nowhere. You know, there was this case in 1992, Casey, that was sort of like, well, we're just going to dip a toe in putting restrictions on abortion access, and that sets them up to be able to take them away wholesale. But like John Roberts loves to go slower. He doesn't want any of you paying attention to his little sneaky, nefarious deeds that he wants to achieve. He wants to go very slow, and he wants to kind of fly under the radar. Alito and Thomas are like, we're past that.
Yeah.
We're having a gas. We're going on trips. We're getting wine. We're eating like fancy salmon from Alaska. You know, like, and nobody can touch us. We can do whatever we want and we'll never get in trouble. So why not? We'll just get rid of abortion. We'll get rid of voting. And what are you going to do about it? Like, they're just laughing at this point, you know? So, but it's not like you read the opinions and you think, well, it's just that we have a different opinion about, or a different take on how to do statutory interpretation. It's not like you're reading some great legal document that's brilliant. You just disagree about the outcome. It's like, they're just like farting on a piece of paper because it doesn't matter at this point, you know?
So the brain works, but there just is evil inside the heart, and so then here we are.
The heart has been poisoned with evil.
I wish one of them were an evil wizard in the way that Scalia was.
Yeah.
Scalia was like a smart evil wizard who could go toe-to-toe with Ginsburg at her best, and you had thought there, and I don't hear that in oral arguments anymore.
Yeah, well, they just don't have to.
They don't.
Who are they trying to impress? The people that they impress already bought them a sweet vacay, so they're good.
God, it's like evil and boring, you know? You made it more boring?
Cool.
Okay. Ketanji Brown Jackson?
Just because white male attorneys talk down to me doesn't mean I don't keep my head held high. I'm sorry, I was listening to the Trump case as I was walking here, and it was just straight up her raising a very good question and a lawyer just saying, I don't see it that way. And like, you wouldn't do that to anyone who wasn't the first black woman on the Supreme Court.
Yeah. The Supreme Court does not deserve her. She's too good.
Yeah. That said, she's still new, and sometimes her analogies are a little bit much. Like, sometimes she'll be like, I have a very clever analogy, and it's like, chill out, Ketanji.
My tagline for her is, I've always had opinions, but now people know it. I gave her a cute one.
That was cute. Yeah. All right. Unfortunately, I hate to leave on this, but unfortunately, we have to address Clarence Thomas. Get him.
You know that I'm not woke because usually during oral arguments, I'm asleep.
When I found this tagline, my soul left my body. Mine for Clarence Thomas is, my yacht may have sailed, but my ship is coming in.
That's good.
Thank you.
All right, Meagan and Guy, we're almost out of time. I want to ask you one last question since this is the Ideas Festival. If people have the idea that they would like to help reform the Supreme Court and maybe restore some of our collective future, what can people do?
Guy Branum.
I would say voting. And a lot of people are like, oh, everyone, moderates just say vote harder. But the thing is like, it is the one time that we have to get involved in this. And when it comes to both the Supreme Court and having our presidents follow the law, the Senate matters more than just anything. Yep. I know that you guys are in a state that safely elects Democratic senators, but anything you can do to call or influence the states that do have close races, please do that. And then the other thing is like, there's a really good podcast of Supreme Court cases on the Oyez Project, OYEZ. And if there's something you care about, listen to a Supreme Court case. They are 1 hour long. They are very digestible. There's a very good Andy Warhol case where they have to fight about whether Andy Warhol is real art or not. And knowing who these people are, because the 9 of them hold your lives in their hands. And knowing who they are gives you more context and power.
Yeah, I agree. The only thing I would add to that is it is true that, like, generally speaking, Democratic officials want to hold the Supreme Court accountable more than Republican officials do. But it's really important to, like, bring these things up. Like, if you're going to community meetings with your representative or senator, you should ask them about the court. They never feel like they have to talk about it because they never get asked about it. They always think, oh, I should talk about the economy. I should talk about this. I should talk about that. But the Supreme Court, anything you care about, just think of the thing that you care about the most. The Supreme Court doesn't like it. Like, so if you like, if you like clean air, if you like clean water, if you like, I don't know, having rights, if you like voting, the Supreme Court doesn't like any of that stuff. So for officials to say, oh, well, I'm just going to talk about the economy and, you know, people don't want to hear me talk about the Supreme Court. That's not true, because the Supreme Court has, like, right now they have a veto authority over all that other stuff. They have, like, they've undermined workers' rights. I don't even think the Supreme Court thinks Congress should be allowed to raise the minimum wage. Like, that's how dire of a situation that we're in. So I would say, like, make sure you're calling your representatives and your senators to like, very specifically be like, do you support an ethics code for the Supreme Court? Because right now they don't have to follow one. Like, do you support term limits? Do you support, you know, should Supreme Court officials be banned from receiving luxurious gifts? You know? Like, those are the sorts of things you should be asking your representatives about. And really critically, we have got to add seats to the Supreme Court. I know a lot of people feel like, oh, that'll never happen, but it will only never happen unless we're pushing our people on the issue.
There are so many things that we are held back from changing because they are in the Constitution. That's not in the Constitution.
That's right.
We should change that.
Yes, exactly.
All right, we are almost 2 seconds from being out of time. But Guy, I want you to tell people where they can find you if they want more of you.
I am at Guy Branum on all social media. And you should follow me on Instagram. You should follow me on Twitter. And my book, My Life as a Goddess, is available wherever books are sold.
Probably over here.
Probably one of that guy's across the street at the
Amazon.
Spheres. Let's go.
Yes.
And you should follow our podcast, subscribe to our podcast, Text Me Back. It's really funny. We do it every week. Thank you so much for being a part of the Cascade PBS Ideas Festival. We have been Text Me Back with Lindy, Meagan, and Guy Branum. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Don't forget to beat up the Wall Street Journal people.
Yeah. See you across the street. Let's go. Come on. Put some steak on it.
That's it for today's episode. Thank you, Lindy, Meagan, and Guy, for the talk. This episode of the Cascade PBS Ideas Festival podcast was produced by Isaac Kaplan-Woolner. The live event was produced by Jake Newman and Ann O'Dowd. You can subscribe to this feed wherever you listen to podcasts, and whatever platform you're listening on, please review us. We'd love to know what you think of the show. For the latest political, environmental, and culture news from the Pacific Northwest, visit cascadepbs.org. And if you would like to support the work we do, whether it's live events we host or the in-depth reporting we do every day, go to cascadepbs.org. In addition to supporting our journalism, members receive complete access to the on-demand programming of Cascade PBS. I'm Paris Jackson. We'll be back next week with a live session from the Wall Street Journal's podcast, The Journal,